Fine pose. Locked in a room, I can't stop myself from crying. Whenever I think that I've reached rock bottom and can't go any further, just then something worse happens. I don't know if I ever will be able to enjoy my life or even have a life in this lifetime. Today was the day when I decided to take my own life because I can't go on anymore. But then, when I think about my aunt, I can't end my life right now because if I die, who will take care of her? I screamed again while crying. And then I heard the lock of my room opening, which scared me again. Scared to death because even the thought of him scares me now. He comes in saying, "I'm home, baby." He sees me crying and becomes worried for me. He saw that I was sitting on the floor, hugging my knees and face red from crying. He sat on the floor beside me despite wearing a suit. He put a hand on my cheek and said, "Why are you crying? Stop crying. I'm here now." And I stopped crying because that's become my life now, and I had to accept it. Now, no matter what happens, it won't change because he will never leave me alone. The thought of making this my new normal sent shivers in my body, but I decided to at least stop crying for now and talk to him. I said, "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have disobeyed you. I'm scared of the dark. Please don't lock me again." "Why didn't you tell me beforehand?" he asked. I replied, "I was really scared seeing you angry like that. I couldn't utter a word." "I'm sorry, darling. I should have listened to you. Don't be scared of me from now on. I'm yours anyway," he replied, having a smile on his face. I didn't take anything he said serious. I was just looking for a way for him to not lock me again. I said, "So you won't lock me again, right?" Jungkook replied, "No, no, I will never do that again. You were scared of it the whole time, and I didn't even know. I'm sorry again," he said as he tried to hug me, putting his hand on my head and pulled it towards himself, making my head rest on his shoulder. And I was still like a slave, obeying everything he says or needs because he is dangerous. After a few days, this life of mine became my new normal, and I was less scared of him for now because he is soft from inside, and most importantly, he cares for me. I noticed that so many times. I stopped being scared of him, and he never locked me again, too. I think this lifestyle is better from the earlier one, where even working my ass off only gave me more hardships and sadness. Thinking about those days when I was working day and night for my aunt's treatment and my uncle used all the money on drinking still makes me cry because now at least my aunt will be treated. So it's only been 2 weeks that he saw me in a park sitting on a bench. I was crying and regretting my life when I noticed someone staring at me. I looked at it and saw a guy staring at me from his Rolls Royce. He kept staring at me, and it was awkward to a point where I couldn't resist myself from getting up and go somewhere else. It was just a little incident until the next day. The next day, when I came home from work, I saw the same man sitting on the couch of the house. I was really surprised and asked my uncle, whom I live with, "Who is he?" I only have my uncle and aunt as my family. When my parents died, my aunt took me in and raised me, while my uncle was against it. They both had arguments almost daily, all because of me, and my aunt had to suffer a lot because of me. Now I'm working 16 hours a day for her treatment as she has lung cancer. Even working for that much amount of time, my uncle was never satisfied with me. He always jerked me whenever he saw me. He even stole money from me And when I caught him, he said that he raised me, so all of my money is already his. I came home and asked, "Who is he?" My uncle replied, "Greet him first. He is the most gentle guy I've ever seen in my life." So I greeted him, and he smirked, looking at me, making it the most awkward thing. My uncle replied, "You're his from now on." And I was shocked as hell, like any other person would be. I asked, "What do you mean?" And that guy got up from the couch and said, "Let me explain from here. I just made a contract with your uncle that you are mine from now on. And he even signed it on account of $1 million that I am giving him in exchange for you. So, in short, I bought you." "What do you mean you bought me? Who are you? Who are you to buy me?" These questions were all I could ask at that time, because nothing else was coming to my mind. It got blank after hearing that he bought me. And my uncle slapped me just because I raised my voice a little, despite the fact that he sold me for some mere money. He was going to slap me again, but then that guy stopped my uncle, saying, "She is mine now. Let me handle her." And my uncle didn't say a word. He was just happy about the money and let him have me. I was going to say something, but then he whispered in my ear, "Just come with me without any further drama. Don't you want to save your aunt?" I looked at him with widened eyes. "What? What did you do to my aunt? You little—" "Relax, relax. What I meant was that if you want to save your aunt, then I can give you money for that. So if you want to save her, you should just come with me." I had a tear in my eyes, looking at him and then my uncle. "You guys are horrible. How can you think of me as a toy, whom one is selling and one is buying? How? I'm not coming with you, not at any rate." And that guy, should I say he was intelligent or something? He understood that I was not gonna come that easily. So he just held my wrist, pulling me towards the outside of the house to take me to his car, while I kept screaming. I didn't want to go with him at all. I kept trying to get rid of his grip, but I didn't have a chance. He was really strong. He pulled me with his one hand and took me to his home, or should I say, this big ass mansion, whose bathroom is bigger than my whole house. He took me to his room and asked me to behave myself while I screamed, "Let me go! Why are you doing this?" He didn't reply to me but just said what he wanted. "I will get you some clothes, get changed in them, and come downstairs." His voice felt a little like he was ordering me. I definitely couldn't accept this, so I said, "Why should I listen to you? I'm not doing anything you say. Do whatever you want." And he was angry now, like his face was boiling from the anger when he growled, "I'm asking you the last time to do whatever I'm saying." I was scared, really scared, but I didn't do anything he said. "Jungkook, that's it." He came to me, held my wrist, and took me to another room of his mansion. When we reached the room, he threw me there while I screamed again, "Jungkook, stay here until you want to listen to me again." He said this and then locked the door of the room from the outside. I kept knocking and banging the door, asking for him to open the door, but there was no reply. I couldn't get a chance to tell him that I was scared of the dark. I tried to find the switchboard with my legs shivering, but I couldn't find it. My legs were frozen from the horror of the dark, so I stopped finding the switchboard and sat on the floor, hugging my knees and crying my eyes out. I'm lying here, regretting my life, thinking about ways to end my life. That was how my life turned upside down in a day. Vine's perv ended. It's been a few days since Jungkook bought Vine and took her to his house. Vine started to accept her life as it is now because she thinks living with him is much better than living with her uncle. She tried to ignore it, but she noticed so many times, in just a few days, that how he cared for her so much, leading Vine to think that he must love her. But she would never forgive him for buying her, or at least she thought so. She thought that no matter how much he cares for me, there's no justification for what he did to have her. But her silly heart still flutters, making her heartbeat fastened up every time he cares for her. On the other hand, Jungkook, who didn't love her at all when he first saw her, or that's what he thought, he just had lust for her when he saw her for the first time. And Jungkook always buys what looks good to him at the first sight. He bought her with the intention of harassing her. That's why he was so harsh with her at the start, locking her in a dark room. But he ended up taking care of her and falling for her instead. Vine got comfortable with him, so she asks him whatever she wants and he gets her because there's nothing his big ass bank account can't afford. She is waiting for him to come home with the intention of asking for something again. At night, he comes home with his usual sentence, "I'm home, baby." And Vine was a little nervous because she thinks that he won't agree with her this time. She put the food on the dining table and welcomes him home with a smile on her face, which is very rare. Jungkook in his mind, did she just smile at me or I'm just seeing things? Jungkook, however, sat on the table to have dinner. Vine didn't start eating. Jungkook, why aren't you eating? Vine, Jungkook, I want to ask you something. To be continued.